What's up, gamers? DreamcastGuy here, reviewing today Team Sonic Racing. Let's be real honest here for a second and just say what we're all thinking, which is that there are certainly some series out there that are just fundamentally misunderstood, where people see them and just immediately jump to certain conclusions. And one of them is, unfortunately, the fact that a lot of people, when they see these Sonic Racing games, immediately just sort of go, oh, that's a Mario Kart knockoff, when that's not exactly the truth. You see, the Sonic Racing games actually managed to try and combine different, more arcadey modes, and of course the team aspect to them, trying to make them feel like a game that is both faster and different without just following in the footsteps of Kart itself. Now, throughout this review, what I want to try and do is really highlight what makes this game special, because while I have actually enjoyed previous games in the Team Sonic Racing series and the other ones like All-Star Racers Transformed, this one is perhaps my favorite, mostly because, well, I like the fact that it has a lot of different little twists to it that make it seem like something that is trying to be noticed. It's trying to actually be cool in a way that it hasn't tried before. Let's begin by talking about the adventure mode, because to be quite frank, I feel like this is the part that people are going to probably spend the least amount of time on, despite the fact that it is actually pretty remarkable. So in this, there's of course a little story about Sonic and his friends getting together for a giant racing championship, but you can basically skip this. It doesn't really have crazy writing in it, and there's no giant plot twists. Instead, the reason that it's really fun to actually play the adventure mode is because of all the little bonus activities. At the start, it basically has some short little tutorials that explain things like drifting, boosting, and using the different items to try and attack your foes. But more importantly than this, it actually lets you really understand the complicated team mechanics. While on the surface this appears to just be a very simplistic racer where it's all about being the first person around the track, there's actually an extra piece to it that you really need to be mindful of as you race, which is this team aspect. So basically, at any time while you're on the track, you have two additional partners. Now, these people can actually do all sorts of different things. You're able to trade items back and forth in case you get something that isn't super useful to you, like say if you get missiles and you're in first place, well, you might be able to throw them to your friend who's in ninth place. That way they can shoot their opponents and jump ahead. You can also do some very interesting things, like whenever your teammate is in front of you, you'll actually see this golden trail going behind them. If you drive in that, it will actually make it so you can hyper accelerate and catch up. Now, these things are very cool and make it where you have to be very extra mindful of how you can help your teammates out. And you can't just ignore these mechanics because it will lead to your specials. So essentially, the most important aspect of working together with your teammates is that if you play nice, trade items, get ahead, and use each other for boosts, you get an ultimate attack, which, well, basically just lets you scoot all the way to the front of the track. It is about 15 seconds of unlimited speed, unlimited power, nothing can slow you down, nothing can get in your way. And so there's pretty much just a tactic as to how you can build up this energy the fastest. If you want, you can actually just trade items over and over again to try and get your overall rating up fast and try and boost as many times as possible. I've actually been able to do up to 3 ultimate attacks in a single track simply by being very conscious as to my special meter. Now, beyond this, as we go back to just talking about simply adventure mode does something different than the multiplayer modes or the online stuff because it has these special little more arcadey focused events. Things like these drifting specific tracks where you're trying to hit these different poles or come as close to them as possible while in the middle of a drift. Or what I absolutely loved, which are these ring courses, where basically you're trying to get the most rings possible before running out of time, but if you go through these rings while drifting, it actually gives you more time on the clock. Now, these things aren't super important, and to be honest, you could just avoid them if you wanted to, but they're a blast. They're just something to do purely for fun, and they do additionally give you this added currency. There's basically these little dollars that you earn inside of Team Sonic Racing that you can buy unlockable car parts in. There's basically like a slot machine that constantly spits out new stuff at 10 coins per item. Now, sometimes it's paint jobs, sometimes it's little stuff, or it could just be a completely new engine to make it where your vehicle actually handles a little bit different. Now, going through adventure mode isn't super great. I mean, it's just kind of there to teach you the fundamentals of the game itself. Where I loved it is really when it comes down to the multiplayer itself. I mean, these style of kart racers, they're certainly best when enjoyed with friends, and this actually allows split screen or online co-op, both of which I tested and both of which are extremely fun. Now, I think that it's of course more fun when you're playing split screen because then you can actually strategize with your teammates, telling them to pass you an item or warning them if there's a giant freaking thing coming up that they need to avoid. And this is really when I began to notice how special the track design is. Now, what's kind of strange is, despite the fact that these people are in full-blown cars, it doesn't really feel faster than any other kart racer. It's actually still pretty slow and methodical, especially if you're just playing on normal difficulty or medium difficulty instead of like hard or expert. But even still, what I really did like is that each of the different courses tries to be very, very different. They have stuff like crazy ice levels and huge flaming volcanoes and weird Dr. Robotnik themed levels that have huge mechanized robots that are sawing up the track. And I really like this because it seems like the game is trying to be goofy. And I really noticed this when it came to the trash talk. So this is a small thing that only Super Sonic fans would care about, but the characters actually talk to each other in the middle of a race. If you shoot somebody with like a missile or something, they're very likely going to actually be like, hey, stop being such a jerk. Or there's all sorts of funny trophies that are attached to these like taunts and stuff. Like one of them that's really funny to me is when you're playing as Eggman, there is actually a trophy for just harassing Sonic. If you just only attack him and spin him out 3 times in a single race, you actually get a special trophy for being a good villain. This stuff to me is great, and I like the fact that all the characters seem to communicate with each other in just such a friendly fashion. It's something that's just rewarding to fans. I like the fact that there's just such a goofiness to everything about it. The story mode isn't great, but even that actually has some pretty good voice acting in it, of everybody trying to talk to each other and get ready for this big racing event. The only real downsides to this game is that I just still feel like it's not exactly super deep. After I managed to master a lot of the rudimentary mechanics and get good at drift boosting, and I got really good at timing how many flips I could do off of each of the different ramps, I kind of got a little bit stale on it. The cycle of this, it just doesn't have as much depth and craziness as other games may have. Now, I'm somebody who actually enjoys racers, and especially kart racers, but this one, even though it is, of course, a car racer, it does kind of at times feel like a knockoff of something like Mario Kart 8, which is now, of course, the highest selling Switch game of all time. I wish that this had something a little bit more to differentiate it. I wish that we had a little bit more of those crazy modes that would actually really just push us to think of the game differently, or maybe more unlockables, more stuff to just sort of motivate me to continue playing. After I managed to rank up a couple times in the online system and I got all the different collectibles for the different cars, I kind of just wanted to put it down. Not because the game is bad, but because I'd already just seen so much. That being said, if we're just talking about raw co-op excitement, this is easily one of the best split-screen multiplayer racers I have ever played. If you're a Sonic fan, and especially if you're a Sonic fan with some friends who are also Sonic fans, this is a must-buy. I'm not even joking. I love the remixed music. I love all the freaking songs. I love all the sound effects. I love all the goofy lines. I love that this is such a great homage and piece of the Sonic universe while also still being so freaking different. Okay, so we've heard some good and some bad, but let's go over the ratings board and put a big number on it. I am giving Team Sonic Racing an 8 out of 10. This game was pretty dang fun, and I'm really glad that I got to put so many hours into it, and simultaneously, it sort of makes me oddly excited for what may come next. I would love to see an entire new series based on Team Sonic Racing, where we actually get more of them, more tracks, or maybe at least some DLC with some extra wacky characters thrown in there, because this game is just something that really sort of whets my appetite and makes me want just a little bit more of a reason to gotta go fast. Thanks so much for watching, gamers. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, share with your friends, and subscribe if you haven't already. But do me the biggest favor of all and keep dreaming. Thanks so much for watching that video. If you want to see something else, you can always click this link to see what I put up last, or, subscribe and see what's coming up next. Also, I promise that whatever I do, it'll try not to suck.